We're almost 3/4 through the year 2025 and already it's marked by some of the most chilling and high-profile murder cases to shake the world. From a cold-blooded black widow poisoning her way through the wealthy to an assassination in broad daylight, these cases have captivated global attention. These are the 5 biggest murder cases of 2025 so far. Welcome back to Shadow Matter. If you're new to the channel, hi, g'day, namaste, and yahoo. In this channel, I take a look at a darker side of our world, normally with a focus on the stories and cases from the antipode, which is a great word meaning under the equator, or more specifically, Australia and New Zealand, not to be confused with antebellum. It can mean other things, but yeah. Today, we're going global. A newlywed wife hires a hitman on her honeymoon, an Iranian black widow, and a cold case is finally solved after 2 decades. These are the world's biggest murder cases of 2025 so far. So, put your kids to bed, grab some popcorn, stop worrying about those tariffs, and set your notifications to silent. It's about to get dark in here. Number 5, Kuthlum Akbari, Iran's Black Widow. And I hope I pronounced that right. In August 2025, the world was taken aback by the arrest of a woman who, for over 2 decades, lived a seemingly quiet life while committing unspeakable acts behind closed doors. Kuthlum Akbari, a 56-year-old woman from Iran, had married 11 elderly men over the course of 22 years, only to poison each of them for their wealth. Akbari used a method that was both cunning and chilling, slowly poisoning her victims with sedatives and diabetes medication, making their deaths appear natural, often chalking them up to heart failure or other common alignments associated with old age. But it wasn't until the death of her last husband that the web of deceit began to unravel. The man's death seemed suspicious, and upon further investigation, it became clear that the cause was not natural. As investigators dug deeper into the circumstances surrounding his death, they discovered that Akbari had been using the same methods for decades. She had carefully timed each murder, ensuring that no one suspected foul play. Each time she inherited her husband's wealth, cementing her place as one of the most diabolical serial killers in modern history. What makes Akbari's case even more chilling is the fact that, for most of the time, no one suspected her. She was seen as a grieving widow each time, a woman who lost her partner to old age or sickness. 11 times? Come on, someone's got to be onto it after the first couple, right? Her charm and subtlety hid a ruthless woman who had no qualms about taking the lives of the men she married. Yet, for all her careful planning, it was one fatal misstep that led to her downfall. When the authorities caught wind of her previous marriages, the pattern emerged and she was arrested. But the story didn't end there. Akbari's defense team has argued that she suffers from a severe form of mental illness. Yeah, it's called being a wicked woman, suggesting that her actions may not have been entirely her fault. Come on, really? Bloody lawyers. This has ignited a fierce debate, and so it should, over whether mental illness can truly explain such acts of violence. While some argue that her actions were premeditated and motivated by greed, others are now asking if there is more to her story than meets the eye. At the heart of the case is the question that lingers: how does a woman who appears so ordinary slip through the cracks of society only to commit such unspeakable acts behind closed doors? Akbari's case has caused a ripple effect, with many now questioning the justice system and the ability to spot such predators before they strike. This case isn't just about one woman's thirst for wealth, it's about a deeper understanding of how the human mind can be twisted by greed and how society often fails to see the signs. Number 4, Elias Rodriguez, Capitol Jewish Museum shooting. On the morning of May the 21st, 2025, Elias Rodriguez, a 31-year-old man from Chicago, walked up to the steps of the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., and began shooting. His targets were 2 Israeli embassy staffers whom he killed in cold blood. It was a shock to everyone. The act was bold, brazen, and utterly ruthless. Rodriguez didn't seem to care who saw him. His actions were deliberate and terrifyingly public. What set this case apart from the other similar attacks was the chilling motivation behind it. Rodriguez reportedly shouted, quote, "Free, free Palestine," end quote, as he gunned down his victims, hinting that his actions were driven by extremist political beliefs. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Rodriguez had been obsessed with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for years, but no one had suspected him of harboring such violent tendencies. Rodriguez's background revealed a history of social isolation and a growing disenchantment with political leaders. He had fallen down a rabbit hole of online conspiracy theories and radicalized ideologies, and in the process he became consumed by hatred. He felt that the only way to make an impact, to make people pay attention to his cause, was through violence. He became a martyr in his own eyes, believing that this act of terrorism would serve a higher purpose. But what makes this case all the more disturbing is the methodical planning Rodriguez put into his attack. He didn't just grab a gun and start shooting randomly. He scoped out the museum, researched the security measures, and even wore clothing that would help him blend in with the crowd. His calm, almost cold demeanor before the attack indicated that he thought long and hard about what he was going to do. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was an act of premeditated violence. Rodriguez's story is a stark reminder of the dangerous potential of online radicalization and the way extremist beliefs can take root in seemingly ordinary individuals. His case serves as a wake-up call for society to address the growing issue of political violence and hate crimes, an issue that continues to tear communities apart and create divisions when, quite frankly, none should exist. Number 3. Vance Luther Boelter, Minnesota assassinations. In another shocking act of violence that would shake up the political landscape, Vance Luther Boelter, a 58-year-old man, took matters into his own hands on the morning of June the 10th, 2025. Disguised as a police officer, Boelter infiltrated the home of the Minnesota House Speaker, Emerita Melissa Hortman, and shot her dead. The attack didn't stop there. Boelter also attempted to kill State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, but fortunately they managed to survive the brutal onslaught. At first glance, the attack seemed like a random act of political violence, a disgruntled citizen lashing out at elected officials. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Boelter had been meticulously planning the attack for years. His manifesto— why do these crazies always have manifestos? Man, put down your manifesto, crazy. Go get some antipesto. Yeah. His manifesto, discovered after his arrest, revealed a man who believed he was part of a larger movement, someone who thought that taking the lives of these politicians would somehow right the wrongs he perceived in the political system. The more investigators uncovered about Boelter's past, the more disturbing the case became. Boelter had been living in isolation for years, holed up in a small cabin in rural Minnesota. This sounds like the beginning of a horror film. He had become obsessed with what he saw as the corruption and failures of the political system. His belief that the system was beyond repair had festered for years, and eventually he decided to take matters into his own hands. What makes this case particularly disturbing is how Boelter saw himself. He didn't view his actions as murder. He saw them as a necessary evil, a form of cleansing. Who does that remind me of?
A necessary evil. I was born in the dark. You were molded by it.
Thank you. Thank you. This belief in his own righteousness made him dangerous, and his willing to kill in the name of his ideology raised important questions about how far one can push a person before they snap. This case sparked a nationwide conversation about the state of American politics, the rise of extremist views, and the danger of individuals who believe they are the arbiters of justice. It also raised concerns once again about the accessibility of weapons and the dangers of political violence becoming a widespread issue. Number 2. That's a hard name. Raghavanshi, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Indian honeymoon horror. What should have been a joyful occasion turned into a tragedy that has captivated India and the world. In May 2025, Raghavanshi, a 29-year-old businessman, was murdered during his honeymoon in Meghalaya. The location was picturesque, the perfect place for a romantic getaway, but it was here, amid the scenic hills and lush forests, that his life would be brutally cut short. Raj's wife, Sonam Raghavanshi, had been having an affair with Raj Kushwaha, a local man, and together they hatched a plan to kill the other Raja. Well, I know what the answer to her question is. Who would your Raja? Eh? No, okay. Cut that out. They were assisted by 3 accomplices in carrying out the murder, which was carefully orchestrated to look like an accident. But as the investigation unfolded, the true nature of the crime became clear. Sonam had been plotting the murder for months, driven by a desire for financial gain. The original Raja was wealthy, and his death would grant her a large inheritance. What followed was a carefully executed plot that resulted in Raja's poisoning the original Raja. His life snuffed out by the very person who was supposed to love and cherish him. What makes this case so disturbing is the chilling betrayal at the heart of it. Sonam had no qualms about ending her husband's life for the sake of wealth. But the true horror came from the realization that she was willing to commit murder to escape the confines of her marriage. It wasn't just a crime of opportunity, it was a crime of deep, cold calculation. The case has ignited national outrage and sparked debates about marriage, trust, and betrayal. It has also raised concerns about the ease with which people can be manipulated by others for personal gain. For Sonam, the consequences of her actions will be far-reaching, as her role in her husband's murder will haunt her for the rest of her life. Number 1. Erin Patterson, the Mushroom Lady. Okay, technically this crime took place a couple of years ago, but the trial was this year. In fact, it was pretty recent, like in the last month or so. So as of the date of filming this. Probably the biggest news story this side of the world at the moment, all the way from Leongatha in Victoria, Australia. Erin Trudy Patterson, born 30th of September 1974, is an Australian woman convicted in what has become known as the Leongatha mushroom murders. She's now often referred to in media coverage as the Mushroom Lady or Mushroom Lady Killer, depending on source. So, what happened? Well, in July 2023, in her home in Leongatha, Victoria, Patterson hosted a lunch where she served individual beef Wellingtons laced with Amanita Phalloides, otherwise known as death cap mushrooms. The victims were Erin's in-laws, Don and Gail Patterson, Heather Wilkinson, and her husband Ian. Don, Gail, and Heather died from the poisoning, while Ian Wilkinson was severely poisoned but managed to survive after a prolonged hospital stay. After the July 2023 lunch, doctors quickly confirmed the victims were poisoned by death cap mushrooms, one of the deadliest fungi in the world. Police immediately treated Patterson as a person of interest because she had prepared and served the meal. She initially claimed that she had bought the mushrooms from an Asian grocery store in Melbourne, but this conflicted with later evidence. In the weeks after the poisoning, police discovered Patterson had purchased a food dehydrator, later found dumped at a local tip. Forensic tests detected death cap toxins inside that dehydrator. When questioned, Patterson admitted disposing of it. She said she didn't want her kids to get sick if it was contaminated. This was seen as highly incriminating. Patterson was arrested in November 2023 and charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. Additional charges related to attempted murder of her estranged husband were later dropped. Yeah, she allegedly tried to poison her husband also, according to the media. During her 10-week trial in the Supreme Court of Victoria, the prosecution presented a meticulous case, including evidence of her foraging trips to known death cap habitats, her purchase and disposal of a food dehydrator with forensic tests linked to traces of deadly mushroom toxins, digital traces, phone records, and social media activity, including photo posts of dehydrated mushrooms and searches for death cap mushrooms. And get this, she supposedly, or allegedly, faked a cancer diagnosis to lure the guests to the lunch at her house. Erin Patterson was found guilty by jury on all counts on the 7th of July, 2025 this year. As of the last couple of weeks, August 2025, both prosecution and defense agree that life imprisonment is appropriate, though the question of parole eligibility remains contested. Survivor Ian Wilkinson, who endured weeks in hospital and a liver transplant, delivered a harrowing impact statement describing himself as feeling half alive, yet publicly voiced forgiveness towards Patterson. Patterson has been held in strenuous prison conditions, including long-term solitary confinement in restricted units at Melbourne's Dame Phyllis Frost Centre. Sentencing is scheduled for the 8th of September 2025, with the prosecution advocating for no parole, while the defence is seeking a non-parole period of around 30 years, citing her mental health and prison conditions. So yeah, sentencing hasn't happened just yet, and this is still pretty fresh, but yeah, that is the story. These crimes have shattered families, disrupted communities, and captured the attention of millions. From carefully calculated assassinations to cold cases finally solved, these stories are a stark reminder of the darkness that lurks within us. But even as justice is served in some cases, others continue to unfold, leaving us to wonder what more lies ahead for 2025. This has been 5 of the world's biggest murder cases in 2025 so far. I've been Shadow Matter, and you've been awesome. Like, subscribe, and smack that bell icon like it's been a naughty girl. And I'll catch you here next time in the shadows.